Hello there. It's James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Johnny Test, Fred Flintstone, and one of my personal favorites, Leonardo. And you are listening to Epic Tales from the Sewer. It's totally awesome. Turtle power. Go, go, go.
Strap into the party wagon and hold on to your pizza. Hello and welcome everybody back to Epic Tales from the Sewers, your favorite podcast about Ninja Turtles with your two cowabunga hosts, Justin and Eric. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing all right. How about you, Justin?
I'm doing great. How about a word from our sponsor, Eric?
Oh, we are brought to you by our sponsor, Daily Grounds Coffee. Coffee to die for.
Nicely done, sir. And just a new thing I'm doing here. Make sure that if you like what you're listening to, if you listen to our previous episodes, go and check us out on Good Pods and give us a 5-star review there. You can find us on any platform where you find your podcasts. And now with that, we want to welcome our guest today. Special guest today, Eric. What do you think?
I don't know. Kind of scary.
This was one that's been really excited for us because this guest actually goes back to the origin of our Facebook group, Epic Shells, and there's some story with that, and he actually did our logo for that. I'm wearing his shirt currently, and he was brought up in the last episode with Benjamin Baldwin. Artist extraordinaire goes by @PowderGHG on Instagram, Mr. KC Jones. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me, guys. Very happy
with
to be
such fanfare. Yeah.
Although first, I do have to get my own sponsorship out of the way first. If you're looking to come out of your shell, you need to go to greenshoe.com and see if they can make a little movement happen with your turtle head. And now for your regularly scheduled.
Green shoe, a kick in the pants. No, it's good.
Oh, is that where we're going? Okay.
I don't know. I'd say, well, that sounds good. Okay. So green.
I was awkwardly going for a podcast sponsorship joke, but I think it went over.
I like
anyway,
it. I like it.
Yeah, I'm a huge podcast guy, but I usually stay in like the comedy vein, like
good.
New York comedy scene, because I'm from New York originally. So
cool.
Anytime I'm doing my art, I'm podcasting.
And, nice. Okay.
It seems like universally everybody's sponsored by Blue Chew, and if you don't know what that is, you're better left off that way. But that's
or Manscaped, right? That was a moment where everybody was doing Manscaped, and they were kind of ridiculous. They're like, "Oh, you've got to do this, and you got to generate blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Whoa, that's a little bit much for like someone talking about shaving and stuff."
We could go for the whole like the Remington skull ones.
Yeah, the skull ones. The turtle skull. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I love that you guys have a coffee sponsor and not a pizza sponsor, though.
Yeah, we had at one point a pizza-flavored candle, right? It's called Cowabunga Dude, and it is from the tree fort. What are they called? The Euphoric Tree Fort, Smell-O-Vision candles, right? So they did things like maple pancakes, making bacon pancakes. They do
Adventure
all kinds
Time.
of stuff.
Yes.
Adventure Time, right? And their logo is the Adventure Time Treehouse. I had asked them to make me a pizza-scented candle, not flavored because you don't want to eat it.
No.
Wow, was that a mistake? So it's like part tomato, it's part oregano, and part cheese, and
oh God!
It's so bad. Like it's one of those.
I wouldn't
things.
think that would be good, Justin.
And now you see that somebody made like they're like, oh, we made Ninja Turtle soap, and it smells like pizza, and I'm like, oh
yeah, like
little did you know.
Yeah, I have complicated opinions about that whole thing. Like,
I me too.
I don't want to, speak ill of anybody that's getting their bag using the Turtles license, because there was definitely a time where I would buy anything with the logo on it. But
that's how it is. Some people are like that.
They come out with now. We're just a few rock skips away from like Kiss territory,
Yeah, but
yep.
We're in that era right now where there's people who have disposable income who like this, who are kind of like, oh, okay, what am I looking for? Something else with a turtle on it. not since like the days of Turtle
Right.
Mania in the late 80s, early 90s, where they had like, oh, anything, like you've got like bath soap and, funny foam and all kinds of crazy stuff. And now it's like, oh, turtle pregnancy test. So it's almost like Krusty the Clown.
It is getting to that point.
The turtle makeup too. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
makeup is a weird field in general lately, because now you see stuff like Doritos and Cheetos makeup and Hershey's makeup, and they'll just put any licensed product on any licensed product.
All it is just a name. It's just a name. They're literally using the turtle name. Like I said, the Dr. Squash soap. Not trying to bash them, but I would buy like most of the other soaps. I'm a big Turtles fan, obviously.
Sure.
But I don't know about the whole.
Would you buy it to keep on your shelf, though, is the question? Because I think
probably not, because they probably stink.
It'll smell like pizza.
That's just me. I mean, I have numerous odd and end stuff in my room, as you all can see.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like for collections and all that. And the cool thing I know about Casey here is that you have a collection of things that I've not seen and are pretty rare. You have a big collection of like the Japanese sort of Ninja Turtles.
Ooh, whoa,
that's right. Yeah,
how did you come across those?
Japanese.
Well, I'm not sure what the exact origin of that would have been exactly, but like back in the day, and well, to this day still, my favorite thing to do on the computer, surfing the web, is just look up turtle stuff. And of course, in the early internet dial-up days, you really just kind of had ninjaturtles.com, and maybe a little bit of something would show up on Google outside of, what was it, Angel Fire and GeoCities and stuff.
God, wow.
Because I go way back. I'm not as old as a lot of the contemporary turtle fans, but I'm 33 going on 34, so I've been in here for most of it. And, back in the day, they had something called like the green ring or the turtle ring or something like that. And this is when people used to just have an email chain.
Oh, so
they
that's
hardly
like
even set up forums
days.
yet.
Yeah.
Right.
You know all about that.
Yeah, and she's a friend as well. Of course, I didn't meet her until later, but she's a friend to all turtle fans. And
she's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I'll definitely circle back to a good memory I had with her too. But yeah, so back then I was just a little kid desperate to find out more. I had all the comics I could get, all the toys I could get, and this was like the lull, like right after Next Mutation. Yeah. And the Image Run and stuff. So I think I wound up seeing pictures of some of these plushes on eBay way early on, and it just planted a seed in my brain of like, wow, on the opposite side of the world, there's like an entirely different version of this thing that other people grew up with that looks nothing like mine. And Mirage's website even had a small blurb about the VHS tape that had the 2 OVA episodes from Japan. Yeah. So it just kind of became my life's mission then, I think, that, when the technology is there or the cultural diffusion is there, whatever that leads to it, I have to know what was that rabbit hole like. And just bit by bit, I managed to find a plush here and there, and it would be years apart. But now that there are handling services and things like that so that you can get products from overseas or you can connect with fans in other countries online, it's so much easier. And I found that after the Viacom buyout, I was a huge fan of everything that would unfold, the new versions that the CGI show, the IDW comic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I found that there was like a lacking part of me that needed new vintage. And you can't just pull that out of thin air, So I just started to look to other countries, and I found that Japan had the most, it resonated with me the most in terms of what aesthetics and designs I like, the humor I like. Because, I grew up with, everybody, of course, had Power Rangers and stuff. Godzilla were peripheral to us in America. Oh, yeah. And there was a degree of mystique to that, that made you wonder, why is it that they can take this thing that's already pretty wacky and somehow they can make it even wackier? Like, I have to see, what is that, So I think the genesis of that was just a combination of being interested in Japanese media as a whole and then wanting to sort of re-experience Ninja Turtles through the eyes of someone else in a different world, if you will.
Well, there's crossover that exists there too, because 2 of the actors that were in Akira, were in the the '87 cartoon. So
absolutely,
you got Cam Clark doing that. So it's like, yeah, I recognized. I'm like, oh my God, that's Leonardo.
And that same principle carried over for children in Japan because when they dubbed the anime, when they dubbed the Fred Wolf Turtles cartoon in Japan, the voice actors they used were like predominantly from other popular media. So Shredder in Japan was Megatron in Japan, same voice actor.
Cool.
So talk about a formidable opponent. You know, he's 2-1 over there. So
this is bad comedy. God, I love Megatron. I used to joke like when we were picking out names for my oldest, you know, I threw out the name Megatron. This is well before any football player was going by it. But I was you know, she did not end up with the name Megatron, but it was in the mix. I will say that.
Hey, I tried Raphael with my son, so my
awesome.
wife was like, no. I was trying to do like Raphael, Michelangelo, Will. I mean, but
that would be cool.
You have to aim for a middle name.
Yeah,
so it's a little more subtle, you know.
Yeah. Trust me, I didn't get close. I compromised. I compromised with my wife. My wife was like, I like this name, you know, Jackson, Jackson, and I was like,
She's got a cool name though. You gotta say that it's a cool name.
Jackson, and I was like, you know, he's about to punch me.
Sneak a little something in there, yeah.
Wow. So Megatron was a voice of Shredder. Did they have any other kind of notable ones that you know of? Because
that's the only one I can pull out of a hat.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't watched much of it, but. Yeah, I know that there was a lot of crossover talent. It's pretty interesting. I sort of envy them in that way, but I guess we have the same experience here in a lot of respects because
I would think so. Yeah.
You see Michelangelo and it's like, oh, that's the Tick. So I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I mean, Townsend's done so much. So you know, it's Absolutely. Like I didn't realize until I was talking to him that you know he had done Scott Howard from the Teen Wolf cartoon. It's like, holy crap, I love that show. And he's like, oh, you're the one. You know, it's like, yeah, it was just me.
Yeah, him and Pat had some particularly obscure roles. Pat Fraley
Pat Fraley is a friggin' genius. Yeah, crazy.
I feel like, you know, not to take anything away from the rest of the cast, but I think he might have had the greatest range out of anyone there because he was the only one as a kid where I couldn't tell, like, oh, that's Raphael doing that one, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's true because when he did Casey Jones and all that, it didn't sound anything like Krang.
No, neither did Burn or half of the other, you know.
Go.
Such an iconic group of people. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fun stuff. So going back to kind of your origin with this, you were talking about how you got all the comics and all that. I'm assuming the toys, and you were kind of a little bit after our era. What was it like for you getting into Turtles, and what was kind of like the start of your collection? Well,
the real origin point of it is that when I was like just merely months old, you know, my half brother passed by my crib with an Ace Duck and a Michelangelo, the original, you know, figures from the first line. And before I could even talk, I just was and I lost my mind until my mom took them from his hands. I was like, "Is this what you want?" And then I was like, good, content, happy. And so from then on, she got me my own. Or actually, I think I inherited his, and he got new ones. So I had a Mikey and an Ace Duck, and I was just affixed on these things, just constantly fidgeting them and, you know, sucking on them, biting them, throwing them around. I don't even know what they are, but I know I love them. And so at that point, I started to get little turtle things like high tops and hats and such. And, you know, my mom would throw on the cartoon. And I famously took my first steps as a baby because the 1990 movie was on our TV, playing on VHS. And I was so enamored that I propped myself up and like slowly rugratted my way over to like touch the screen and just stare at it.
Wow.
And so, you know, not to be over dramatic, but it's like I almost literally owe my every being to Turtles because it's always that thing that keeps me going, you know, literally or figuratively.
That's fantastic. I don't think we've heard an answer like that yet.
Yeah, but yeah, so it started there.
Okay, I guess you're gonna win. I don't know what the prize is, but
I win.
You probably win.
I win. I definitely win, dude. Because the first steps are for the movie, and so then I'm surrounded and engulfed in the turtledom. Because at this point, you know, I'm born in late '90s, so it would have been late '92, '93, '94 that I'm like really coming into the turtle thing. But back then, it was still going on. Because people talk about Turtle Mania like, oh, I died in like '89, '90, and it's like it's really not true at all. People were craving turtles well up until the next mutation. So
yeah, I think the second season of Power Rangers is when it was kind of like, and then that's when like Red Sky seasons kind of picked up.
sure,
And
yeah.
that's the end right there. So, and then
It may not have had the top spot, but it was still like, very prevalent, we'll say.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Well, it's still on Saturday morning cartoons, so
Right.
you could still
So that
watch
was my
it.
era. For me,
Yeah.
that was the Turtle Mania because all of the things that I had read to that point, because I had like the Turtle Treasury book and little newsletters from Mirage that would be in the back of the comics and stuff. So I understood that in the years prior it had been so big, but it was still going. And so I mostly grew up with like what was it, the USA reruns from CBS?
Yeah. Yep.
And they had like Toontown or something with the little subway car, and it was like a polar bear that.
I remember Cartoon Express.
Yeah.
Cartoon Express. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm.
That was USA, wasn't it?
Yes, indeedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I grew up with that, but
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
if you want to talk about like a cool projection of from starting and ending, not that I'm dead yet, heaven forbid, but like I went from I'm being a little kid, like 3 or 4, having a Pizza Hut birthday, right? And they have a jukebox, and I'm just spamming Turtle Power. One after another, after another.
Partisan crime.
Yeah, right. And so fast forward to years later, that very MC, whose name is Richard, Golden Voice of Partisan Crime, that guy now wishes me a happy birthday on Facebook. So it's like, talk about coming full circle. It's so weird to think.
And that's the funny thing too, because it's like, I don't want to say you're like the best kept secret in this sort of culture, but everybody knows you. Everybody knows your work. You're so connected. You're so respected. And it's one of those things that's like, it blows my mind when I'm like, how has this guy not done an issue? How has this guy not done like a sanctioned cover and things like that? It's like, your work is so good. And I mean, so good to the point. It's like when I first started Epic Shells years ago, Brian C. Park said, hey, you have to check out Powder GHG on Instagram and all that. So literally, that was how I met you, is because Brian said, check this out. You got to do this. Like, you got to check out his work and all that. Because
shout out to Brian. That's really cool.
Yeah. That was kind of the thing. So found you eventually. I think like maybe like a year or two after, I commissioned you to do an art like a logo for Epic Shells, which was my 2 favorite ones: the Sewer Surfing Mikey and the Sewer Samurai Leo. It is still to this day the Epic Shells logo, and it will be in perpetuity because I love it so much.
Shell, yeah, and that is a source of pride for me. By the way, every time I see that that's still there, I'm like, oh, right on.
Yeah, it's just gonna stay there because it's iconic at this point. And I mean, and just seeing your stuff, it's like, this is great. And since then, it's like whenever you have like one of your sales, I'm usually looking. I'm like, okay, what's this? Every year for October, I put up this big picture that I got of like all the Universal Monster turtles that I have, and that's adorning my house because that's a Halloween decoration. It's not a turtle decoration; it's a Halloween. It comes out once a year.
I love that.
And like I was saying, this was the newest one that I had gotten, which was the rocker turtles and all of that with, just in there. And obviously, the listeners can't see it, but it's, the rocker turtles on stage, and it's got Mona Lisa, Ace Duck, Genghis, and Rasputin Frog, and Mondo Gecko, all at kind of like a hardcore show. So it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
So, but it's just like that's one of those things. It's like, I don't know how it hasn't happened yet, but I know we had you on the Last Ronin fan cover with our logo artist, Ernest Acosta III's on there, Casey Wilson. No, you're not on there?
I am not on there, no.
Okay, I thought you were on that.
No.
Okay. Did they ever approach you to get on there?
I don't think so.
No? All right, how do we get you on? Let's put it this way. How do we get you on a cover? Because your work is that good.
I haven't done one yet, so you're asking the wrong guy, my friend.
Okay.
You flatter me, first of all. I just like would
we gotta see if we can get in.
It just kind of blows my mind. It's one of those things. It's like your style is it's like you go back to the idea of like the toys, but mixed with what was on the back of the toys, like that sort of artwork and all that, and it's just really, really recognizable. And I like I said, I've been a fan. I'm obviously wearing your T-shirt, so and so was Ben in the last episode. He had the cool. Punk Don, Punk's Not Dead. So
right on. Yeah, no, you flatter me. I really appreciate the kind words. I would very much like to have the opportunity. but it just hasn't come up. I don't want to like speak ill of anybody in particular or any companies or anything at all, but the industry on a whole for comic books, I think it's sort of unfortunately trended the same way so many other things have, which is sort of just an exploitation of everything to a profitable end, which of course, I mean, any business is that in itself, but like, there was a time where, not to gatekeep, but there was a time where you had to earn your place, either through being a good person, a genuinely good person that networked and had the right connections, or because your skills were there, and nowadays so many things have just taken on the pay for play system, because I used to be in bands and a performance artist and a musician. And, there would be a lot of bills where you'd have a large act and then you'd have your opening acts. And half of those opening acts would be local people who had an established reputation and people like them and they're good folks and they play well. And then the other half are guys who said, okay, so I have to sell $600 worth of tickets. Well, how about I just give you $600 and then I open for the show? And, the booking agents and the venues are perfectly content with that, because they make their nut. But then at the end of the day, things sort of get muddied, and I feel
that
like
explains a lot about the Green Jello show that I saw in April. So, okay, thanks. A lot.
No, but I mean, that genuinely happens. And even an experience that I had, to make a brief aside, my group got to open for an artist that we really liked. And it was so flattering to have the opportunity. And a rival of mine caught wind of this, was so frustrated that he didn't have the same opportunity, that he did just that and went to them and said, hey, can I just break you off for the same cost of tickets sold? He got to open at that same show. And we were like, wow, this really isn't right, but that's just the nature of things now. So to be sort of passive aggressive, I guess, I think that's what a lot of things you see coming out is symbolic of. People who bought their way in, people who know the right people. And although I have good connections and I have, done some interesting things over the years, I have never really wanted to play ball. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like to name drop. I don't like to plead to corporations. I don't like to make Facebook posts about the right things and the right issues. And I just keep to myself. I believe that an artist should be an artist and just express themselves within the medium.
So it's about integrity, it sounds like.
It's about integrity for me.
Okay.
And that's not to say that anybody who's running things has a lack of integrity, because that's not the
This is more about how you conduct yourself, your business, your brand.
Yeah, because I mean, if somebody came to me tonight and said, hey, do you want to do a cover? I'm in, but I want to know that it's because they liked my work, they felt I was worthy of the work or whatever, and not because it's like, oh, I have a comic book shop in case he's popular. If we have him do something, maybe it boosts our brand. I like to do things that are truly in the spirit of what they're intended to be, and I'm obsessed with turtles, and I do make income from the turtles in a roundabout way, but it's never been about like that weird, I don't want to exploit things. My personal
sounds like
is always
fair
to carry
use
on the Mirage spirit.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, and I get it, and that makes a lot of sense. And I was just always curious about that. That was the biggest question that kind of, like, when I saw your stuff, and I'm like, this is so friggin' polished. Like, just in general, I'm like, do you just not like doing backgrounds or something? I'm like, what's going on?
Well, I'll tell you what, there is some truth to that.
Okay,
and
fair.
It's something that I've tried to rectify in recent years, and that's sort of how the prints that I do every couple of months came to be. It's like an exercise in, can I do scenery? Can I tell a story with just an image as opposed to a pinup of a character who's just standing there? I wanted to have different outfits, different scenarios, different characters that would justify sort of sharpening those skills.
Yeah.
But, to that end, I've seen a lot of covers that are just pinups and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know if it's skill. I don't know if I have a reputation that precedes me to the negative or what, but I don't know. I'm more or less just sitting here and thinking, like, when it happens, it happens.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I'm pretty happy with where I am, because
I think that's about the coolest thing you could have said, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that right there. That right there. That's being humble, and you're comfy where you're at. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Your happiness is more important with your mental health.
I'm just saying too. You're giving me strong Leonardo vibes here. I don't know, man. Like, Like it seems like that. So
I can see angriness coming out of him.
No, I don't know. We'll get to that one, but I want to ask because I've seen some of the artwork that you've done, and it is incredibly detailed, like to a point, and just where I'm like, this is unreal, and it's just like the Varner sketches and all that for like the video or like the toys and all that. Who's the most challenging character that you have to draw?
Well, first of all, I appreciate the compliment, and any comparison made to Varner and the gang is much appreciated, because I'm sure anyone can tell looking at my art that in its current iteration, the biggest inspiration there would have been the Playmates toys for sure.
I think that's the only thing that I can see that's close, like to your stuff, because it's like I said, it's so singular in nature. It's like, yeah, this is Casey Jones. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, I wanted to kind of get to a point where the fun and the energy and the dynamism and the style of those toys would carry over into my two-dimensional drawn art. Because, there's a billion extremely talented artists out right now. And this goes back to the point about, why hasn't it been me? Well, it could be anyone. There's so many people. And I think that in the last few years in particular, I've tried willfully to set myself apart from the talent pool, because I think a lot of people focus on precision and tightness and the detail and the grit, of something that feels comic booky, right? There's a comic book aesthetic that people try to go for. And I think that there was a certain pipeline to that being the easiest or most obvious way to getting a job in the industry.
Yeah, but you want to look like house style.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, that's what I was trying to do. I was obsessed with that. And it was worth being that way because it forced me to think about fundamentals and anatomy and perspective, and it forced me to sharpen my skills. But after a certain point, I realized nothing sets it apart, because there are so many people who could do a billion variant covers, and you may not be able to tell 10 artists apart. You might be able to identify 2 out of the rest, but the rest could mix in. And I always thought, well, the toys, the way they are depicted in action figure form is probably the most iconic, recognizable, fun, energetic. And there's enough there to play with that you can kind of project onto it whatever you want to. There's no attached universe. There's no TV show. You can break the rules as you want. And, 2 punk frogs, for example, who are exact 1-to-1 copies in the cartoon, can be entirely different species of amphibian in the toy. And so that's the kind of mindset I like to approach my own art with. Let's have it pop. Let's have it be weird. Let me have you take this in gradually, not one quick go. Because the most memorable thing to me about the action figures were when you picked one up, you couldn't put it back down. There's details on the bottom of the shoe. Whoever looks there.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? Dirtbag. Yeah. He's got a dead spider underneath his boot. No one would ever think to look there except for the gentleman that sculpted it. So those kinds of things I like to put in my art so that it feels almost like an I Spy. You're looking for those same details as you would with a David Arshofsky design or a Varner sculpt.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And referencing the David Arshofsky, the sculptor of the Killer Bee and I never remember the mosquito.
Needle Nose.
Needle Nose, yeah. Yeah, I always wanted a Screw Loose, and they gave us Needle Nose, so we got the little Screw Loose, but,
Oh, wait, Screw Loose, what am I talking about?
Needle Nose.
Well, yes, so Needle Nose, Screw Loose. Yes, you're right. There's 2 mosquitoes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, goofed up.
That's pretty cool. I like all this stuff that you're saying. That's pretty awesome. I notice elements that remind me of punk culture and stuff, and like hot rod culture and all that in your elements too. And we were talking before about some of the musical influences that you had, and that you are a musician. I see a lot of Rat Fink sort of vibes from what you do as well. Is that part of your influence?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I would say that Ed Roth is definitely a big influence of mine, particularly in my more recent stuff, because I think if you want your work to feel more energetic, look no further.
Oh, yeah.
His characters quite literally burst out of steel machines. They're so, full of just chaos. So yeah, that's up there, Big Daddy Ed Roth. And I would say also the punk rock movement on a whole, the aesthetics of that. My bedroom when I was a teenager was just smattered wall to wall in Prince posters, stickers for punk bands, local and otherwise. And Turtles has always had sort of a backbone of punk and indie music root associations with it. So Yeah, I try to put that across as well, definitely. Because stuff like the Subhumans are a punk band that come to mind for me as one of my favorites. They were like a hardcore punk act from the UK in the 80s. And their album covers always had this really striking black and white art that was just... There's one in particular, it was one of the first punk albums I ever got. It's called The Day the Country Died. And if you look on that, there's a punk rocker in the center of it, and then he's just completely surrounded by everything ever possible. There's churches, buildings, cars, nuns, UFOs, like natural disasters. There's bullets ripping through him, knives in his arms, just everything all at once. And I would just stare at it for like the longest imaginable time and redraw it. And I think, that's definitely in there. The Casualties as well. They're another punk band from New York City that would just have a lot of illustrated covers. And, if you know anything about punk, they'd always try to depict themselves as ugly and nasty as possible, running noses and zits and piercings and all that. So, yeah, that definitely comes through. Both
elastic bands hanging from the face.
Yeah, safety pins, yeah. And I think that comes through a lot in the old Playmate stuff as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
The guys that we're fans of liked this stuff just as much as we did. They got to be there for it, so...
A lot of the creators would actually get together and play music, like specifically like I talked to Steve Levine about playing Danzig and all that, you know? And I mean like him and Pete and Ryan Brown and like all those guys would be playing in the basement and all that while creating some of this stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, the fun thing about Turtles, I think, and this might be branching off into a different topic a little bit, but
that's what we do.
There's so much there that I think that if you have a deep vested interest in the property, no matter what your age or lifestyle may be through life, as you change, there's going to be a version you can identify with. Yeah. And so for being a kid, I had just like the cartoons and the Archie comics and things like that. When I decided to get rebellious and go through puberty and be a punk rocker and this, that, and the third, I kept Turtles with me. I never got rid of it. But, there's probably parts of you that think well, it has to go on the back burner, or it's something I don't talk about at school, but I'll still watch at home.
Sure.
But to crack open a Mirage comic, knowing this is the adult version, and to see that Eric Talbot literally did a mini comic that directly references the Misfits, not just their music, but their imagery with the devil lock hair and everything. It was like, no way, so you can always dig into the fiber of any given version, but especially the Mirage ones, and see that there's such a deep influence pool there that will either shock you or you'll find that it's the same as yours, because these were just a bunch of dorks that like to build robot model kits and blast punk rock music and, have a beer and ride a motorcycle and go crazy. And what did us 90s and 80s kids wind up being if not that?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, the tank. I'm like, what about a tank?
Yeah, well, Kevin really bought one of those, didn't he?
Kevin is so friggin' punk. I mean, like the fact that he bought Heavy Metal Magazine and bought a tank and stuff like that, it's like he's just the best dude,
Yeah. The duality of him and Pete and how they would respond to fame, for lack of a better word, and what they would do with their wealth is really funny. But it also represents quite accurately what they contribute to the book and the brand. Yeah. Because they hit it big, and Kevin wants to, buy bottles of Jaeger and an alien xenomorph prop and a tank, and hook up with adult models and just go crazy and buy Heavy Metal Magazine. And Pete likes to take up pottery and buy a new hat. And enjoy the countryside,
really yin and yang.
Yeah, they're completely yin and yang. Yeah,
but I would argue out of both of them, Pete is the more punk because he's the one that had that sort of hard line where he's like, no, we're not doing this stuff. Yeah. It's like it's going to be like this. So it's like he's the one with that strong sort of center to him that said, this we will not cross, and So yeah, I always found him to be the more punk of the two.
That is ironically very true. Yeah, because Kevin he seems perfectly content to let everybody take their fair shot because it's fun and why not? Even though he does have that presentation of the punk rock, and like you said, he doesn't care who he makes an enemy as long as the integrity of the product remains intact. Well, not product, but if you look back to his notes throughout the 4Kids series, for example, because his blog, he would criticize and critique and adjust every script practically that came through for the 4Kids animated series. And I'm sure it didn't, make him any friends over there, but this is his baby. And a lot of people would give him crap over the years and say oh, Raphael wouldn't do that, or April wouldn't say that, or they wouldn't do this or that, da-da-da-da. This is his baby. If Peter Laird says the Ninja Turtles are going to quit martial arts and open a hot dog stand, okay, he would know better than we, right?
Well, to a certain point, I would argue that because I think that there is that point where something becomes so big, I wouldn't listen to what Bob Kane said about Batman in the '80s. I wouldn't, because at that point, it's been done by Denny O'Neil and it's been done by like Neil Adams and stuff, and they took it in a different direction that got away from the creator. So it's I think at a certain point it goes that way. But like you're saying, it's okay, maybe we're at issue 8 in the Mirage era or something like that. Yeah, you're 100% correct. But
I
now
just
it's
mean within one contained, universe, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that think Pete doesn't have domain over Mirage, and it's who else would? Pete can tell you something is wrong in a different version or that it should be different, but when people try to argue what Mirage is or isn't or should have or should not, it's dude, they know.
That's the cool thing about Mirage, though, and I know you've got some of the Mirage artwork up behind you, and actually, every once in a while, I see this really nice Leonardo piece that you have right behind you right now. Looks like it's colored by Steve.
This one here, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Pete Laird. Looks like it's colored by Steve there.
That is correct. Yeah. That was a very lucky Facebook get.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was about 10 years going by the date on it. Pete was offering sketches through the Shellback Artworks store at the time, and taking commissions on for watercolors. So I went with blue.
He colored it?
Yeah.
That seems pretty rare because normally Steve's doing them.
No, that's what I was saying. Steve was offering Pete's sketches, but then with an added commission of a paint job. Oh yeah, that Steve would then do himself. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
But yeah, I have pretty much all the forefathers of Turtles in some capacity on my wall as original art.
All right, so I'm going to throw out a name and you tell me if you have it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Eric Talbot.
Yes.
Okay, so we got Eric Talbot up there. Ryan Brown.
Eric is right there. I don't know how well.
That's beautiful. Beautiful
Raphael.
Whoa.
Oh, damn.
It's a little tricky to get the camera there, but.
Yeah. Wow.
I'll ask about that one next. So, do you have a Ryan Brown?
Ryan Brown is one of the only fellas I don't have, and in fact, I don't think I've ever even spoken to him once, which is rare because I try to make contact with everybody, even if just to respectfully share my appreciation of their work. But Ryan is an enigmatic one. He seems to keep to himself, and if you want to get word from him, you got to go through Dan. It seems like Dan Berger. Yep. Yeah,
absolutely.
But no, nothing from him.
I saw Mike Dooney, which was up there right next to Eric Talbot, one of my personal favorites. So
yeah, Dooney was one of the first I ever got because being here in South Carolina, I'm from New York originally, but I'm in South Carolina. Not a whole lot of turtle towns were coming down here for the longest time. So fortunately, Dooney did go to Heroes Con just about every year. So I've got a whole lot of his work.
You guys are close for Dragon Con, a little bit close, but probably not.
It's about 4 hours out for me, so not happening. But Charlotte I can do is it's 2 hours.
There you go. Okay, that's not bad. I see another one up there. I see Mr. Jim Lawson.
Oh yeah,
right next to that.
Yeah, he's another fella that I've got a couple different things from. Started with Leo, and then went to my other boy Casey.
Beautiful. Wow. I have not seen a Casey like that before, actually. So.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that both of these pieces are, and this is a fun piece of trivia for those who are really in the know, these are some of the last remaining pieces of what's known as duo shade paper.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so years ago, all the original early Mirage comic art, for those who aren't aware, was done on this paper called duo shade. It just looked like regular Bristol board for illustrating comics in an 1117 format. But there was a chemical applicator with a little needle dropper, and wherever you applied that, you could brush it into place, add the chemical solvent, and boom, this cross-hatching would appear on the paper. And this is sort of the Mirage style. When an artist says they do something Mirage-inspired or Mirage style, it's usually just a cross-hatching that imitates that. And it turned out that at some point, I think in the mid-2000s, the people who were producing this stuff became aware that it was causing, it may have been causing cancer or some other really not good thing, allegedly. So they stopped making it, and Mirage had just a small supply left, and they were the only people in the world that had it still. And over time, Jim would trickle out a few commissions every now and then, and I think I think now the only remaining traces of that paper are sketch cards that Jim has cut to size. So if anybody gets one of those in 2024, you have something extremely rare.
And maybe put it in a frame under some heavy glass or something. So.
Yeah, that too. Maybe don't touch it with your bare hands, or
don't lick it.
Oh, come on now.
Going back to Dual Shade, that has come up several times on the show. It came up when we were talking to Isaac Stone from the Casey Jones Amnesiacs, and it came up when we were talking to Stephen King about his sort of stippling, staccato dot style that he did that really resembled that. So we're huge fans of those guys. So.
Yeah, I am at the very least peripherally familiar with the two, and they're both very talented artists. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I big shout out to anybody that wants to keep the Mirage spirit alive, because there are plenty of fans, but I feel like most people's turtle art tends to skew more towards like an IDW design sensibility, which is still great. Yeah. But I'm old school, so anytime I see like the tree trunk limbs and the fat cheeks and everything and the white eyes, I'm there. I love it.
Well, it's funny because like when we were talking to Freddie Williams at Granite last year, he was talking and he's like he learned anatomy from the Ninja Turtles, how to do a calf muscle, and that's where it came from. Like that's what he was telling us. I'm like, that is so cool.
I would say the same. I've been drawing since I was like 3 years old, probably, and through that time, I have drawn almost nothing but Ninja Turtles.
Really? Wow.
And I know you could say that as an exaggeration, but I really mean that. Like when people ask me to draw humans or robots or like anything, like I'll usually do it, but I dread it. I've never wanted to draw anything other than turtles, pretty much, to this day. So
what if it's human characters in the Turtles world that aren't wearing a Casey Jones mask? Something like that.
I do it willingly, but I hate it the whole time. I'll save it for last, and it makes me miserable. But you have to learn.
No. So you've had commissions. You've had people ask you for things. Have you ever had any like really crazy commissions that have like stuck in your mind, like turtle related, something like that? Like whether it's a vehicle or something like. Well,
I mean, if we're talking in terms of difficulty, that would always come down to anything robotic. When people ask me for. Probably the biggest nightmare to draw is Metalhead.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's worse, but like I find that people want him from me pretty often, I guess, because I draw toy characters a lot. And I do love Metalhead, absolutely. But there's so much to it. Yeah. There's so much to it. And it's like, I try usually when I draw him to make it look a little different every time, partly so that each person has a unique piece, but it's for my own sanity. Because if you're going to do a one-to-one with that toy, oh my God. That's got carpal tunnel at age 30, no doubt.
It's crazy because like even if you look at him, it's like there's literally lines and there's detail in every millimeter of that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's a gorgeous toy. So yeah.
But in terms of like something more impressive or memorable for better reasons, I guess it would just be probably. I mean, overall, I'm very glad that people want me to draw turtles because that's what I would want to do anyway. So cool. I appreciate that, but. I've had some people come to me that commission me to do stuff that's like in connection with other artists, and those I really like because cool. I've had a couple of people have commissioned me to do digital colors on Jim Lawson pieces that they've commissioned, for example, because they I don't know, like make a print of it for themselves at home or something. There was this one fella whose name escapes me, unfortunately, but he was a musician, and his album had the art drawn by Jim. The cover, on the front and the back, the interiors, the disc, the whole thing was all Jim Lawson's art. And then he had commissioned me to color the entire thing. And I wish I could remember what it was called right now so I could give him a plug. But, that kind of thing is really flattering. That there are those out there who think I'm worthy of carrying the torch, so to speak, on stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
To speak on that in particular, like Jim Lawson and coloring Jim Lawson's work is probably like an instrumental point in my timeline where this went from being a hobby to something that maybe I could actually pursue. Because very early on, I colored some of Jim's turtle drawings that he used to post on Facebook that were probably just commissions of his or something. And I emailed them to him. And mind you, at this time, I was a lot younger, and I was using Photoshop 5, for those of you who know how old and out of date that software is.
All right.
I used Photoshop 5 to color them, and I sent them to Jim, and in hindsight, they looked like a child did them, frankly. But he was so nice to me and so supportive, and was like, man, you might really have a future in this. You know, the comic book industry is full of talented illustrators, but there's not a whole lot of great colorists. You should keep at it. Something to that effect. And like, it made my decade. I still talk about that now. And it made me want to go hard on coloring. And within like 2 or 3 years of that, Jim himself had paid me to color a print of his art that he then sold at some event.
No friggin'
and that like made my life pretty much.
Dude, so, that's amazing.
Yeah. I've heard amazing things about Jim. Like, I heard like he is like one of the most, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, everybody that I've ever met, you know, is been absolutely amazing. You know, like at Granite, like I've met him at Granite, I've met him at, you know, in Kentucky and all that other stuff. But I've heard like nothing but great things about Jim Lawson. Like, he is an absolute like amazing human being. I remember Stephen King was talking about like one time they were at a bar or something like that, and he ended up buying him a couple of rounds or something like that, or
it's crazy.
Whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I've heard so many great things about him, and I can't wait to meet him though myself. You know?
Yeah. No, this is going to be a big deal for us, I think.
Yes, it's. I mean, it's for the 40th, and as many people. I mean, as much turtle stuff that's going to be there. It's going to be absolutely amazing, man. And you know, it's going to be awesome though. I can't wait to meet everybody.
Yeah, I've been friendly with Jim since probably going back maybe 2010 or 2009 or something. But like I said, back then it was just like in a fan capacity. I'd shoot him an emails now and then to tell him I loved something he did or show him colors I did. And there was even one time I tried to draw something in his style, which is something I do a lot privately. I'll imitate things to see like what will this help me understand about how they do things, you know? And so I imitated Jim's work, and I drew a picture of myself with like a turtle's arm around me or something. And I sent it to Jim in his style. And he was so sweet. And I'm sure all these years later that he could not have meant this, but it was so nice of him to say, he's like, wow, that looks so much like my art. You could hardly tell. My son just came in to ask me something and thought he was looking at a current project of mine. And I was like, oh, because there was no way that it would look that accurate, but he was just that nice. And that made the difference. You know, it was enough to like fake it till you make it, where if Jim Lawson has faith in me, who the hell am I to not put forth my best efforts, you know? And,
do you have anything that kind of it's like a gallery or anything? I know it's tough to do this because of people stealing artwork and stuff like that, but do you have any sort of like online gallery where people can see your stuff, or have you thought about doing like a printed book?
I have thought about a printed book, and I have a couple of ideas that are in motion, but you know, there's a lot that goes into it, and it really comes down to time more than anything else. Because fortunately, I do have resources and connections that could help me on a printing level or a graphic design level and things like that. But like, I still just would have to grind into it because I'm an all or nothing guy. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and if I can't make something like truly epic, then I end up not wanting to do it at all. But in the meanwhile, for those who do want to see a larger view of my work, they can go to either Instagram and look up at PowderGHG, or they could potentially look at my old Deviant art, which is under the name Powder, aka Casey Jones, but that's not been updated in some while. So your best bet is to stick to the IG there. But
yeah,
but yeah, I would like to do something down the line.
So, something would be amazing just to see, because I mean the shirt that you're wearing is for ain't nothing but a toy thing. You know, it's a group that we're in on Facebook. It's a great shirt. I have one. I won it. Patrick sent me one. So you know, and shout out to Dennis out there. You know, runs the group and all that. Yeah, the other.
That is my legal name as well. So there we go. And big shout out to Pat actually, because you know, on the heels of Jim being one of my biggest motivators and inspirations, Pat, I would actually put right up there. Pat is a friend of ours, Patrick. But you know, he's just a big guy in the Turtles community who's extremely kind. He's always paying it forward and doing nice things for people. He creates really cool custom toys under the name Mindless Mutations, if you want to look him up. But you know, he's somebody that I got close with a couple years ago, probably during like the pandemic and stuff, when people were going more to their online spaces for comfort. And we just found an instant connection, he and I, as friends, you know, sort of similar backstory, similar interests and stuff. And he felt so strongly about my turtle art and he would just, not blow smoke up my butt, but like just imbue me with this confidence. He was so complimentary, and I thought, wow, okay, sure. And he started to commission me to create gifts for other members of our community, people who were going through hard times, or maybe they recently had to sell something from their collection and it was kind of crummy, or they lost a pet, or just whatever. And he'd find out what their favorite character is, and he would have me do an illustration of it. And, awesome. We'd send them a little gift package with some art stickers and things like that.
I think I saw an ace duck like that.
You would be right, yeah.
Okay.
In Benjamin Baldwin's collection, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
from the previous episode. And so that was something that really changed the way I viewed my own place in the community as an artist specifically. Because ever since I was a little kid, the idea of like the point of this, the goal of this, I guess would ultimately to have been an artist on the comics for Turtles, or a toy designer, whichever field I could do, because I'm into all of it. But at a certain point, I've had a lot of opportunities sort of whispered, but things don't always come to fruition. There's lots of talk, but putting things in motion is a difficult thing with licensing and schedules and money and so forth.
Of course.
So I always kind of felt like I kept having the door close in my face, right? If somebody was like, hey, because over the years, I've had so many people reach out and be like, there's a thing, don't get excited, but maybe, we kind of like to see about possibly, and it's always in that language, And so at a certain point, I kind of felt like, screw it. I guess I'll just be an artist in the general sense, a freelance artist, and I'll carry on and I'll still draw turtles for fun, but I think I kind of gave up on the dream a little bit. But when Pat started this whole like paying it forward through art thing, and I saw the response that it got from everybody, the way that I try to stay humble, so I'm not trying to act like my art is something that would truly change someone's life, because it's not. It's just a drawing like anyone else's art. But the outpour of kindness from people, the way that they would express how happy this made them, how unexpected it was, it really moved me, and that was more about Pat's kindness than anything else. And it made me realize that, like, in order to feel complete and content and whole in my mission of doing turtle art, the whole point was just to feel a sense of community, to do it actively, to make a modest living off of it if possible, and for people to think of me when they think of turtles. And by doing this whole thing, I felt exactly that in a way that was so much more rewarding than just getting to do a one-off cover, because now I had all these people had become friends to me through Pat's gesture. And I realized, like, oh man, you don't have to be a part of the corporate machine to be a part of the message behind something. Nope. And with Turtles, that's always just been about misfits, not to take it back to punk rock, but it's about people that may not have a place finding their place with one another, and so it brought me back to all of those core values of the Mirage era, and why I liked it so much and why I would connect with people is because, we all sort of had an odd start. Much like the Turtles, what matters most is the family you choose and the values that you put out rather than what you are or where you came from. Yeah. And I feel like I sort of got reacquainted with that idea when doing turtle art became more at the forefront of my mind again after giving up on it. And I continued in that way to just do art for individuals, for regular people, to the extent that it actually did catch some traction. And I've since then, had a few more connections made and other things whispered. So, it pays off to keep the faith, ultimately.
Yeah, look, good karma. Like, I don't know if you're a big firm believer in good karma.
No, I am. Totally.
I feel that does come in tenfold. That's something that I'm an assistant manager at this one place, and one small act of kindness can really, really change somebody's day, week, their life.
Yeah.
And, doing something like what you did, and, some people were having a rough time, it could change an outcome, and it also could flip a switch in somebody and push forward, Yeah. And I think that's absolutely amazing. But I feel like, with you doing what you're doing, I think you need to keep pushing, because I feel that dream can come true.
Oh, definitely. Like, if you want it, though, like that's
I do want it, but I think, this
it'll
might
come in
really,
due time.
Yeah, that's more or less what I've come to terms with.
Yes.
This will sound cheesy, and it probably is, but I've always been sort of like a hopeless romantic, right?
Yeah.
And
sounds like an anime watcher to me.
You got me. You are. We can come back to that, but
yeah.
But I was always one of those people that was just kind of like hoping to find my puzzle piece in the world, as far as a partner and everything like that. And at a certain point, I tried 1,000 things. It always blew up, and I'm like, I'll just give up on it for a while. And I decided I'm done looking. Eventually, it came to me. It found me.
Exactly.
And that's when I finally understood that principle that, like, things find you when you're meant to have it, and that you're not meant to go out. It finds you. And I've been hoping that that's what's leading me now.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
talking about is the exact reason we wanted to have you on the podcast is because of your role in the community, more so than your role in the corporate machine, putting stuff out there and like, hey, you can go find my issue number 4 or something like that. It's like, no, it's not that. It's
right.
Like you're an important person in this community, and that's why we wanted to have you on. And that sense of community and found family and all that, you exemplify that in spades.
That's what the turtle community should be about. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be about making money, but it's just helping one another and just doing what we're doing now.
Yeah. I've been on the receiving end of that spirit a great number of times in the community. And, my introduction to the community overall, in the sense of like connecting online, was during the 25th anniversary of the Turtles, which was 2009. And up to that point, I'd always been an obsessive fan, but I had never really participated in like the pool, Yeah. And so I went on. I had moved from New York to South Carolina with my family. I was young. I didn't want to. I had to. I found it difficult to adjust to a change of environment, little culture shock. And so I turned inward to my favorite things, Turtles, and I found the Technodrome forums online. If anyone, I don't know if either of you were ever on there, but
going way back. Yeah.
So that was a very prominent web space for the green teens for a really long time. And that's where I met like the majority of the turtle friends that I still have to this day. And I just got so jazzed up on the fact that, our boys were turning 25, which is crazy that we're 40 now talking about this. But, I got to fly out to New York for the celebration that they did then at the Tribeca Film Festival. They showed the first movie with Eastman in presence. And I think Steve Barron might have been there. Ernie
they had the van for that one. That was when they had that special van that Ethan found recently. Yeah,
it was like a school bus, I think, that they repurposed into the party wagon. Yeah, so that was a blast. And it just like, that is kind of what cemented me going from like a big fan to like a obsessive. Like I snapped into like the turtle girl, like Michelle Ivy mode from that anniversary. And I would meet all of these people online who were just like me. And it was like, oh, finally, I'm not like the weird kid who's still attached to Ninja Turtles. There's so many of us out here.
You don't have to explain it,
Right. Yeah.
Look, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of it too. You know what I'm saying? Like my wife started, like I have a bookshelf right back there. You see where that one right there, that bookshelf?
Are there books?
No, probably not.
Actually, there is books. There's actually CGC comic books. But it all really started on that bookshelf right back there.
Sure.
With literally a couple turtle figures.
Right.
We just got together. We were about to, she was pregnant and all this other stuff. And to have, like, she started this. Like, she got me the Nintendo, got me the first 2 Nintendo games and all this other stuff. And I collected this stuff a long time ago whenever I was a kid.
Right.
And, of course, I helped my parents. I sold all my stuff, which I wish I never, because I had all kinds of stuff.
Man, if I had a nickel for one phrase I've heard more than anything.
Exactly. But, it all started, like with her. And then, then I just collected stuff, and then I got into like these groups with the Last Ronin stuff, and that's what really got me going. And look where I'm at now. Like I'm sitting here with Justin. I'm very, very blessed, to admit, Justin, because I wouldn't be sitting here now today if it wasn't for this guy right over here. Very, 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 very blessed, and I'm very honored to be a part of history up here in Granite now for 40-year anniversary. And I'm
absolutely,
I've always been on the other side of a con.
Yeah, and
having
our own table and all that, it's pretty cool.
So it's like having that impact, having that positive impact, man. I'm telling you, it's going to come to you in due time. Like the things that you've done.
I'm gonna freak out, Eric, because I'm gonna be at the same in the same room exhibiting with like Kevin Eastman, Tom Walls, Michael Duty, Mike Ruth, Hugh Rookwood, like all these guys that are my heroes, and it's like
and I know you're on cloud 9 too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, we were on cloud 9 last year, and but that's the whole thing, is like to be in the same building, in the same room. I mean, we got to break bread with John Sumavia, Camilo, and
I'm not familiar with him.
Oh, who's that guy, right?
Some artist. I don't know.
There was like an ongoing thing the whole time at the con with John.
Shout out to John.
Yes,
I love his art.
And Freddie,
his book, The Neverlanders, by the way, is fantastic. Highly recommend it. Him and Tom Taylor.
Yeah, like me and him, Justin, and all three of us, and the three of them. We got to hang out with them, and it was mind blowing.
Is community though, and it's exactly like Casey's talking about. Like these guys, they're just as obsessed as we are. But they're talking about like, oh, the Palladium game was awesome, or wasn't it great? Like those Mirage books when they came out with issue 9, or remember the River? And we're like, I remember the River.
Cuts, dude.
Oh my god!
When someone knows the deep cuts, it's like this feeling of meeting a relative that you didn't know you have.
For me, it's Soul's Winter. Whenever somebody talks about Soul's Winter, I light on fire.
Dude, I'm so bummed that Zuli passed recently.
Yeah, that is sad.
He was another huge inspiration of mine. Those books are so good.
I actually tried to reach out to him a couple times, and I just we never connected. We never got a chance to do anything. But it's like, what an influence on my early comic book reading career. Yeah. And then to go and read Sandman and like books of magic and stuff like that down the road, you're like, oh my god, I know this. This is the guy that drew the Crow and the Shredder, who like tried to resurrect Michelangelo because he got his hand cut off in the snow. It's like right. I know, I was there. It's like, you just get so excited. But,
for sure.
Oh man, that's cool. There's some cool stuff, and
connecting with these guys is the best part.
Oh yeah,
because the fans are awesome, but the talent or the creators behind it oftentimes are just as nice. I don't think I've ever had a singular experience that it was even slightly negative with someone who has left their imprint on the property.
Not in this industry, not in this fandom. I mean, if we're talking about like Star Wars or something, maybe. But like and I mean, you already know, if you're a Star Wars fan, it's completely different than. No,
I'm not, but I know enough to know it's a very different atmosphere. Yeah.
And going to a couple things on the wall there, you've got some of the signed pictures from the voice actors who are just as accommodating.
That is also true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've gotten to meet a great deal of Turtle talents over the years. Not so much recently, but I got to meet Greg Sipes, Hoon Lee, Rob Paulson, Brandon Allman, Ciro Nieli, like a whole bunch of people that worked on the CG show. They had I think it was like a private signing that you could only get tickets to from a Facebook raffle or something years ago. And I couldn't get in, and a friend entered his whole family into it. His sister won, and I got in with her name.
That's awesome.
No ID required. I don't know how that worked out, but that did. But yeah, no, everybody's been super nice. I mentioned Rob Paulson. I said some kind thing to him, I don't quite remember, but he was like thanking me for having helped pay for his son's college, and then even got up and asked me for a hug, and I was like beside myself. So I can only imagine, the candor they have with people that they just see for even the briefest times, or sometimes even sort of annoying interactions. The patience and the grace that they display is awesome.
It's different. It's, to me, the fandom, the people is so much different than any other Marvel, DC,
totally. There's nothing like it.
There's nothing like it. It's built different.
Yeah. I will say though, I think there may be a couple of reasons for why that is. One is that compared to all these other properties, we're a pretty small club. Like,
that's true.
I mean, it's a lot of people, but like something like Batman or Star Wars, big head start.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that like Turtles is something I feel that has probably, in comparison to other properties, a greater portion of more surface level fans compared to other things. You know, some properties like, say, Pokemon, for example, people who are Pokemon fans, they like know everything Pokemon, you know, but a lot of Ninja Turtle fans, they just fondly remember it from their youth. It's like a past, you know, peripheral thing that they just think of fondly. If you want to get into like the territory of knowing Mirage or something, it's a very small chunk. And I think so that's part of it too, is that when you have people who are unified by this sort of obscure mutual appreciation, that helps. But above all else, I think it's Mirage, honestly. I think Mirage imbued this property and its community with a certain spirit that a lot of people want to uphold and embody. Because they were very, very, very interactive with the fans from the beginning. You know, they remained extremely humble gentlemen.
But I mean, you got to think. I mean, how they started. I mean, Kevin Eastman literally took them loan,
right?
And you know, and it's just like, okay, they killed off, you know, the main villain in the first, and it was just like, you know, they didn't think they were going to make an issue 2.
Right.
Boy, were they wrong.
They were quite wrong. Yeah,
very wrong.
So it's like, you know, over the years, if you do get to connect with any of those guys, you see that they're so nice that just any interaction you could have about Turtles is, you know, it would sort of stay in that way. It's lighthearted, you know, because these guys don't have ego.
Yeah, and
they really don't.
That's the cool thing, and you know, doing this, it's like just getting to see that like firsthand. It's like not everybody gets the same experiences that we have because we have this platform. But the one thing I'll tell you is like talking to new Turtles artists, talking to old Turtles artists, voice actors, movie actors, things like that. There ain't no ego anywhere, man.
No.
Like none of them. Like I'm sure if you could get to Elias, you know, who played Casey Jones and talk to him about it, he wouldn't have ego. You know, it's crazy. You know,
and the stories are consistent.
Yeah.
You know, everybody says the same things about the same people. You know, if you're an industry guy or just a humble fan, you meet somebody like Berger, Lawson, or Rob Paulson or whomever, they will all give you that same level of kindness and appreciation.
They absolutely do.
I'm jealous you guys get to go meet everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time, man. It's going to be a good time.
It's going to be insane. I've got to meet, you know, like not people from the movies or the other Mirage guys. I met Kevin Eastman twice.
Same.
I think.
Yeah, I got one, I think, and it was pretty
Saturday and was it? Yeah, Friday and Saturday. So I got to meet him, and he's like, "Oh, you again?" And I'm like, "Yes."
let me tell you guys my Kevin Eastman story because it's pretty. I think it's pretty funny. It wasn't so funny at the time, but it's funny now. So this was New York Comic Con 2013, and I'm super jazzed because obviously the new Turtle Mania has just begun.
Yep.
And I'm ready. I'm going to be there for it. Last time I was a little guy. Now I'm a big guy. I can see it all. I can soak it all in. Kevin Eastman's going to be there. I've never met him before. He's the father of everything I care about. I have a whole bunch of things I want to do on this Saturday of the convention. I'm going to meet Lloyd Kaufman of Toxic Avengers. And I'm going to try to meet, I think there were like some Nickelodeon voice actors. I had all this stuff planned out. I'm like, all right, I'll get in line for Kevin first thing in the morning. Well, little did I know that would be my day.
Yeah.
And this was in 2013. Most people hadn't even known he returned to the property yet, mind you, compared to now, right? So I get in line. The line is just wrapping. And I'm waiting in line for like 4 or 5 hours at this point. And then all of a sudden, Kevin Eastman circles the corner to tell us that he can't see us. And we're all like, no, we've been here for so long. This is a nightmare. Because he has to go do like a panel or something, right? And so it seems like I'm going to miss my opportunity. But nope, he decides he's going to do a speed run down the line of people waiting and sign one item each. So pull it out. And he literally went bing, da-da-da-da-da, bing, da-da-da-da, bing, da-da-da. And I was like, all right, it's better than nothing, right? For the duration of him signing my one comic, I just barely managed to eke out, oh, hi, I'm a really big fan. You actually did the cover to a book that I was a part of, you know, the continuation of the Image Comics, Volume 3 with Gary Carlson and Frank Fosco and Andrew Modine and Arseny Dubikov. And he's like, oh, yeah, those books are great fun. Then he moves on. But I'm like, all right, I planted the seed. I told him that you worked on something I worked on. That's all I needed, right? But then he circles back again and says, okay, they're going to let me extend the autograph section. If you guys want to still wait, you got to wait here the whole length of my panel and my Q&A. Then I'll be back, but I'll come back. I said, all right, I'll wait. I continue to wait. I have a friend who pops in and out to give me updates about other things that are going on. At this point, it's going on 8 hours that I have been here waiting in line to meet Kevin Eastman.
You got like 1 hour of show left, I think.
Yeah, there was like, I literally was here all day. At this point, out the corner of my eye, I can see, and I probably shouldn't tell tales out of school, but he's sitting there with a couple other guys, and they're passing a bottle around under the table. So I'm like, all right, this has been worth waiting for already. Like, Kevin Eastman is so cool. He's sitting here drinking Jaeger with a security guard, like, right there, so rock and roll. And I finally make my way out. I'm going to be on there. I'm going to be up to him in like 5 to 10 minutes. And I say to my friend, dude, I've been in line 8 hours. I have to use the bathroom so bad. Can you just spot me in line real quick? No problem, dude. I got you. I go off to the bathroom with my backpack and all my goodies, da-da-da-da-da. It's hectic. I'm going to use a stall. It's just a whiz. Nothing crazy. Just the number one. I do my thing, ba-da-da-da. Guess what? I flushed the toilet and it exploded. I kid you not.
Wow.
I kid you not. The pipes at the back where the toilet connect into the wall, in a public restroom where it's just like, there's just a crank handle and there's no box or whatever. Yeah. It starts spraying from there. Flush, like clean water from having flushed. But I'm being sprayed with toilet water and I'm 5 minutes out from meeting Kevin Eastman. So what am I going to do? It just so happens I had a change of clothes in my backpack.
Oh.
Yeah. So I quick fast managed to take off my clothes that had got soaked in toilet water, throw them out in the public garbage can in the bathroom, put on the change of clothes, run right back. And I'm just like, holy.
And your friend's looking at you like, did you just have a blowout, man?
Yeah, because I show up in a completely different outfit looking so disheveled. I was like, dude, the toilet exploded.
Oh, so it wasn't a full tuxedo. Okay.
No. So yeah, then that happens to me, and thank God, like I said, it was like clean water, or as clean as it can be. And then boom, I get up to Eastman, and he is red in the face as can be. And I was like, yeah, remember I told you before I got to work on those books? And he was like, oh yeah. And so, that's where we got to open a dialogue, and I told him about some of the things that I had gotten to brush up against because I wanted to make a good impression and see if he was familiar with any of it. And he was super nice. And he signed like 4 or 5 books for me, and I asked him if he would be willing to do a sketch. I didn't even know if that was a thing at the time. Of course, now you guys are probably aware he like never does it or charges. You have to like arrange in advance or something. It's like a whole thing. But I was like, do you think you could do a quick head sketch? I just wanted to like do what they call a remark now, I guess. Yeah. And he pulls out a comic board backing from like a book and does this full-on Leonardo.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And he wasn't doing that for like anybody. And I was like, oh,
like the freaking cover.
Yeah.
Just like the freaking cover.
Straight up.
Issue number 1.
Well, there you go.
That's crazy.
So I was like, oh my God. I had the best experience ever. I gave him a hug, handshake, photo together, da-da-da-da. And then as soon as I got offline, the next guy goes up, can you make me a drawing? Security leans in. No. They were like, no drawings, 1 signature only. We're cutting the line short. And I was like, oh my God, bro.
Everybody
the toilet exploded. I just made it. So it made being there in line all day worth it, but holy crap.
Yeah. Oh my God. And he didn't even charge you, it sounds like.
No, he didn't charge me for anything.
Son of a gun. Wow.
I mean, he wasn't charging anyone at the time, period, back then. Because the volume of fans wasn't what it was. Like, I mean, it was huge, but Kevin Eastman then was like how you might think of the creator of something else now. Like, it's the guy you don't know the name of, practically, Kevin Eastman now is like Stan Lee.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
Back
Absolutely.
then, he had a long line, but he didn't charge. People were signing, he'd sign 7, 8, 9 books. He would like do voice, like video shout outs to people and everything. So, once again, a guy who's super nice, even if it's to the detriment of the line or his staff or whatever, he's happy to talk to everybody for however long they want. God bless him.
We actually had Kevin judge our first cosplay or costume contest in Epic Shells.
There you go.
I went through the Kevin Eastman fan club, of which I am a proud member. We went through and we spoke with their management, and we got Kevin, and he chose. We sent him the finalists. Awesome. He picked it, and in a video, he released it and said, and here's the winner of the Epic Shells, and it's there, it's documented. And I'm like, dude, that's amazing. And the prize, they hooked us up with a free 1-year membership.
Oh, that's really cool.
Like, the winner gets this. And I'm like, what do you do? Like, I didn't ask for that. They gave us. That was amazing. I'm like,
Kevin and Fiona both are super, super nice.
Yeah, that's exactly who it was.
Yeah. Yeah, she's wonderful.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I've spoken with her firsthand or not, but like we have a lot of mutual friends. She's in some of the groups I'm in, and I think we've corresponded on something before with email. Because if you want to talk to Kev, usually you got to talk to Fiona.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, he's super nice. Years ago, the first like thing I ever really got to do that was semi-official, not that it's official, but you guys are familiar with the volume 3, as they call it, the Image Comics run?
Yes. Yep.
So,
Gary actually lives around me out here.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Or Frank does. Sorry.
Yeah. Frank Fosco.
Frank Fosco. Yeah.
Oh, I said Gary. But
well, there's Frank Fosco right there. First of all, on the wall.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
But the Image Comics were I'm pretty sure like my first introduction to the Mirage universe. So he made a huge impression on me back in the day. I loved those books, loved the art, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they never got finished. They got cut short.
Yes, they did.
And this one writer, Andrew Modine, wanted to sort of pick it up where it left off. Can we finish this after all these years? And this was before IDW had even done that with Urban Legends. And he reached out to Frank and Gary personally and said, hey, if I could get some like Mirage guys to kind of, vet this and legitimize this, what would you think about teaming up to finish the book after all these years? And surprisingly, they agreed. And it was at that point that he would have to find an artist because Frank was willing to contribute, covers and some preliminary stuff. But, as with anything, it's a huge undertaking,
of course,
professional or otherwise, the expenses, the time. So he, Andrew, the writer, he went out to solicit for artists on the aforementioned Technodrome forums. And that's where I submitted art and was like, hey, I could do this. And the thing is, I couldn't do it. I was not ready for it at all. I imitated a bunch of Fosco's pencils and sent them in I can do this. And I got brought on by Andrew to draw this book. I did, for the first of 2 issues, maybe a third of the layout sketches and panels and all this kind of stuff. But really, it was just so much of an undertaking for me. Because at this time, I was 19, freshly moved. I had no skills. I sucked as an artist, frankly. And I beefed it completely. And that's where Arseniy Dubokov, if you know him from the Russian end of the Turtle fandom, who makes all these great books nowadays.
Forever War. Yep.
Right, like the Forever War, absolutely. That's sort of where he came into the folds, because he was going to be producing the books for Andrew, and ultimately he would then become the artist and pick up where I left off. And I got to do a short comic in the back, which was written by Will Tupper, who worked on Tales of the TMNT, if you guys are familiar with his work. Yep. And so when they did a follow-up issue, it was just going to be 2 issues to finish the whole run, Andrew actually reached out to Kevin Eastman and said, hey, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but we always loved this book, and we know that you liked this book, and it didn't get to see an end, and we're finishing it now. And is there any possibility that you would be interested in being a small part of it in some way? And in the end, he inked Frank's pencils for a 2-part spread cover that had the entire series' Rogues Gallery fighting the Turtles, and the 2 of them had never even collaborated on an art piece before. So for Kevin to legitimize what is effectively a fan product like that was super cool. And as those books would go on with Andrew and Arseniy and everything, I would get to work on each one in some small capacity, doing little backup stuff or a page of art here or there. And that for me was what you guys probably feel now with GraniteCon on the horizon. This idea that I can share this space with these people, not just as a fan, but as a peer, It's crazy. And to be able to say that is crazy. Because just this past year, I got to do what's probably the biggest accomplishment of my involvement in Turtles, and that was to ink 20 pages of Jim Lawson's pencils.
Oh, shit.
And that was for a graphic novel that is out independently. It's not a licensed product, but it's called The Shredder, and it's written by Andrew Modine and illustrated by none other than Jim Lawson. And Andrew and Jim have sort of created what people refer to as the extended Mirage universe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they have done a number of graphic novels together where it sort of just picks up where the Mirage books left off.
Is that Odyssey? Is that one of them?
Odyssey is one of them. Yeah, absolutely. There's Odyssey, there's Origin, and then now The Shredder. And although Peter Laird is not involved, and I'm not sure that he would want to be, or he may not even necessarily approve of them, almost all the other guys have left their mark on it in some way. You know, they'll either feature short stories, pinups, or other contributions from everybody up to A.C. Farley, Dan Berger, Rick Arthur, pretty much just name them. They're there. Like, okay. we've gotten just about everybody other than like Steve Levine, you know. There's so many people involved, and it's just crazy to be able to say that I'm like in a book alongside them. Sophie Campbell contributed a whole page of art to Odyssey, for example, and it's really fun too because you can kind of see like the possible like root point for certain things, like Venus being a time mistress in IDW, because in Odyssey, Venus was pulled out of the multiverse by, I think, Renette to take hold of the scepter and kind of pick up the mantle and become a time mistress herself, which you would then later see.
You mean Lita, or are you thinking of Venus still?
Oh, I'm getting mixed up. Is it Lita that became the time mistress?
Lita's the little white one with the pink sort of embellishments on it? Right. Okay.
Doesn't Venus have some connection with...
Yes, there is, but the scepter, I think, went to Lita. But
okay, well, I guess I'm getting mixed up. But in the Odyssey book, please. I'm behind on the current books, but in Odyssey, Venus was the time mistress character.
Oh, okay.
So it's just
I never read Odyssey, so it's something I hope I get to eventually, especially with like doing the comic readings and all that. Like I'd love to do it.
Yeah, your best bet, they're online somewhere to read for free. I'll see if I can forward you a link after this. Anybody that wants to check all those out can, but it's mostly like Andrew tries to tap into a lot of the old stuff that got left behind, like Palladium source books and, weird things that they sort of created a breadth of content but did nothing with. You know, he tries to sort of give these things purpose or tie up loose ends, usually with Jim's blessing or input, much like how Arseni's Forever War books come together. They obviously communicate at great depth with these guys to make sure that the books are worthy of their names and involvement.
Steve Murphy and Chris Allen. And
yeah. So it's super cool that these guys are receptive, because the unfortunate matter of truth is that while there is interest in a lot of the old stuff or the old timelines, it doesn't seem like the demand is there enough to justify it in like a broader capacity.
And that's why you have things like Kickstarters nowadays to, like if there's interest for this, that's why the Palladium stuff's coming back.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So things like that. And they're like, hey, we know we got to change some stuff. Let's do that. Let's update it. And let's get you, I know you couldn't get those little lead figures back in the day because they're so rare, but let's print new ones. Okay, cool.
It's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited.
It's good that there are avenues for that now. Because, for the longest time, people would reach out to IDW or whatever and say, how come you guys don't do new Archie books? Or how come you don't bring back this artist or that guy or whatever? And it's just, the unfortunate matter is that a lot of us guys who have an attachment to those books are sort of beyond the demographic. People have to pay more attention to their wives and kids than being able to keep up with the book every month. So
that's like going back to what you guys were saying earlier about rise of the TMNT, and that may have even been before we started recording and all that. But how Rise is for some people and it's not for other people. But that demographic is the demographic that's where we're at now. Now we move into, Mutant Mayhem, and there's that. There's new fans of Mutant Mayhem that aren't fans of Rise, that aren't necessarily fans of the 87 cartoon. It evolves as we kind of move forward. So, I like the idea of what you're saying, that it all goes back to Mirage. For me, that makes a lot of sense, because everything does go back, because there's always a city at war. There's always, like a return to New York. Like that's like the core principles locked in time. So
people don't think about that stuff much, because the 1987 cartoon sort of casts a large shadow over everything. And many people think that, so much of what makes up the Turtles brand came from that show. And while there is truth in that, like the whole pizza thing or the multicolored mask, so much of it really is just Mirage, but people don't give it the credit. Because the overall themes of Turtles, and this is a point I love to make when I talk about Turtles, is that it can be anything. It's like, I think it's probably best called science fiction, but like it includes everything that could fall under that banner. Time travel, space travel, aliens, robots, cloning, whatever. We could go on and on. But I like that.
Dinosaurs.
Right, yeah, all of that stuff. But like all of those things have become staples in Turtles, and all of those things started in the first 20 Mirage issues.
Yeah.
dinosaurs, time travel, like literally everything. I
mean, in the first 9 issues.
Yeah,
I mean, all of that. Like you look at like issue number 8, and you've got Cerberus and all of that. Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
that's pretty cool. I do want to get to one thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about yet, so I'll just kind of redirect our conversation. I wanted to talk to you about your musical kind of contributions to that, and something that we had talked about just a little bit, because there is like a musical aspect to you. You talked about being in bands and all that. How are you contributing to the Turtles world with your musical talents?
I love that question. Yeah. Your question was, in what way am I bringing like my musical contributions to the Turtles, basically? Yeah. So in the past, I've dabbled a little bit with doing like hip hop music and stuff. So I used to try to occasionally make Ninja Turtles inspired raps and things like that. Naturally, Turtle Power inspired me. MC Hammer inspired me. The hip hop has been such a huge part of the fiber of Turtles since like the early '90s with Vanilla Ice and Rap and Mike and all these things. So on some level, I think they probably got to me even there. But these days, I'm working on a up until now super secret project that I'm going to use your platform to announce.
Woo!
It's called Reptile Warp Drive, and it's just a one-man project of basically, I'm thinking of it as a spiritual successor to the soundtrack of Turtles in Time.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
So Turtles in Time, and to a lesser extent Tournament Fighters, it's like some of my most favorite music of all time, period. Like right alongside Pink Floyd or NWA, I'm putting those video game soundtracks. They just
bury my shell at Wounded Knee.
Yeah, it inspires the heck out of me all the time. And even just like the quality of the instruments used, there's that certain chunky toy block feel to the synthesizers on a 16-bit console, such as the SNES, that I can't take myself away from it. And so after years of doing different kinds of electronic music, from hip hop to drum and bass and all these different things, I thought I got to take a crack at Turtles. And so I downloaded like the sound fonts from all the old Konami stuff so that I could essentially put myself in the same cockpit as Mutsuhiko Izumi and the other Japanese composers' names that I forget. But I just wanted to give it a shot. And so I've conceived about 14 to 15 tracks that are meant to be the songs that go alongside with imagined stages in a hypothetical video game. So
that sounds exactly like the type of thing I would listen to.
That's the goal.
Exactly.
It's an extremely niche project, but like my philosophy was basically this. I'm so obsessed with Ninja Turtles to the point that even recreationally, I just want to listen to Ninja Turtle music. Just like people want to have Ninja Turtle shirts and Ninja Turtles appliances in their house, you take it to that level. And I figure there's got to be people out there like me who have exhausted that wealth of Ninja Turtle soundtracks after 30 years, but still want new Turtle music. Yeah. I mean, you could get the soundtrack of a current game, of course, which I'll give a huge shout out to Shredder's Revenge. They nailed it.
God,
Oh my God.
Mike Patton, but T. Lopez, the primary composer,
yeah.
like he captured the exact style. So, that's one rare example where I think you can relive it. But otherwise, it's tough to find new music that sounds like it came out of an arcade in 1989. So yeah, I just sat down and challenged myself to envision a bunch of stages. What if Turtles in Time had a sequel? What if instead of, going back to different periods of time, particularly, they were shot into different periods of culture? So there's a song that represents, like, what if they got smack dab into a Chinese dynasty? What if they got smacked into a samurai village? What if they got sent into an Egyptian oasis? They all have a slight, like, cultural twist to it, sort of like a Turtles world tour.
Okay.
And
so are you emulating sounds then from like Egypt and all that? Like using their sort of
the only sounds used are from the Konami SNES like synth chips, basically.
Yeah.
So there's no, I'm not doing any like extra sampling of like soundscapes or anything. But for example, like you could do melodies that in the back of a cartoon or a video game, you'll hear like that sort of, you go, oh, okay, I'm over here, I'm over there. So it's just about capturing the vibe of these environments, but using the turtles as sort of like a vessel for it. And each stage, each song is named after the stage that it would be accompanied by. and I have like all the bosses set out and designed and everything, and there's going to be a whole art package basically that coincides with the release of the music. So you'll be able to see this sort of pitch for a game that doesn't exist. And I'm going to kind of make it look like, what if they wanted to do a Turtles in Time sequel, but it didn't happen? Here's all of the art resources for the pitch. Here's the soundtrack that was made for it. Sort of like a fake what if, I'm not going to pass it off as if it's authentic, but that'll be the gimmick ultimately.
As a fan of video games and all that, that's fantastic. It's like a RPG sort of video game in your mind's eye. Like Dungeons and Dragons as a video game sort of thing. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to like articulate what it is, because if you want to go up to a person on the street,
it doesn't exist. So
right, it doesn't really
nothing
exist.
like it.
It's basically
a concept album.
Yeah, it's mood music for people who can't stop listening to Ninja Turtles Super Nintendo soundtracks and need another one pulled out of the ether.
Very cool. Yeah. Because I have a cassette tape that I got last year. And I can't remember who released them, but they were doing it on CD, cassette, and like vinyl and all that.
I think it was limited run.
Limited run, yeah. So I have that one, and that's the original NES game that I have. So I'm like, what you're talking about is like, I listened to that already. So this is exactly what I'd want. So
I'm glad
physical, digital release, like how do you plan to produce it?
Well, first, it's already done. That much I'm happy to say. The whole project is complete, at least on the musical level. I'm working on the art assets now. The intention is, first and foremost, it'll be on Bandcamp. I have a Bandcamp now that you can go to that's Powder GHG, just like my Instagram. And on there I have some old hip-hop music and stuff, but there is even another Ninja Turtle project or two on there, just to give a plug quickly to that. There was a fan game years ago that I would imagine either of the two of you must have played. One of you must have.
Rescue Palooza? Yep.
You're talking about the Rescue Palooza. I haven't played it, but I know of it. If anybody knows anything about turtle games, it's
dude, you can play Irma.
I got over 50 games. I got over 50 turtle games.
Then I'm going to need
a
personal. I'll have to make sure I get you this stuff so that I can see what your feedback is.
Yeah.
But whatchamacallit? That game, Rescue Palooza, I had done to sort of test the waters. I composed a couple of tracks for that game. He used mostly music from the original NES Turtle games, and I think maybe Toxic Crusaders and some things that sort of fit in similarly. But among them are some of my original composed songs that just blend right in, and you can't really tell they're not from the NES. And I have those on my Bandcamp. I did the Muckman stage, which I think is a junkyard, and then I did the final fight with Krang at the end. So if you've played that game, that's me. And then I'll give you a slight idea of, where this other project could go.
Yeah.
And then years ago... Sorry?
No, I was just saying I haven't. I would like to, but I don't got a PC or anything like that. So
well, you can listen to it right on the phone and
doll.
So.
You're like a nesting doll of like interesting things that happen. And the next layer you take out, you're like, oh, by the way, video games. Oh, music, artwork.
Guess what? The next one in my little nesting doll is.
Where is the nesting doll of the turtles, honey?
Oh. He's got one. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, he definitely has one.
I'm gonna have to put that on a business card. The nesting doll of Ninja Turtle fans or something.
Yeah, that's easier to spell than Matryoshka. So
yeah, I wasn't even gonna try to pronounce that.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Oh, that's so cool.
Isn't it funny? The last one's Mr. Bean. I never understood that. No,
Mr. Bean.
Sorry, that was just being absurd.
No, but my wife actually has a real Russian nesting doll from Russia.
Very cool. I've always thought they were a neat little.
Oh wow, there's something even in that one.
Tell me that's Krang, or a foot soldier, or a splinter. What is that? It's
Krang.
I love it.
Wow.
That's so good.
Wow. Eric's holding up a little nesting doll that's a Ninja Turtles, and this was totally unplanned. I didn't know he had that. So
I thought I showed you.
I don't remember. I don't know, but it's funny like how stuff comes up and connects in conversation.
Yeah.
And it was just like an offhand comment, but you're like, we're so into it. You'd be like, oh, this, and I like reach over and grab something,
Between the three of us, there's odds.
Yeah.
There's good odds.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, a couple years ago, I did another project. I think it was called the re-orchestrated original soundtrack to TMNT 87. It was a bit of a mouthful.
Cool.
But the soundtrack of the old cartoon, never been released, ever. To this day. I don't even know if that exists anywhere or not. You give it another year, people can probably extract it with AI or something. But
oh yeah,
years ago, I just by ear alone, I would take clips of the show and recreate some of the songs from the background as accurately as I could. They're not perfect, but it did pretty well. And So there's like maybe 11 to 13 or 14 tracks of those that people could check out if they want to. And there's pretty good odds they've already heard it, because unfortunately somebody like released it on YouTube as the official soundtrack. Like they don't credit that it's like a fan recreation. And so a lot of people have just like taken it and put it in the backgrounds of videos and things and like passed it off as the real thing, which is a compliment. But most people don't realize that it's me.
That's crazy.
So
that's nuts, man. Now has come the time when we talk about our favorite thing. Before I get to that, I do want to ask, because we didn't get a chance to go into this. Who is your favorite turtle? If you have to pick one, that's your standout favorite.
Gotcha. Well,
your life depends on it. No,
I can't remember if this was before we got started or not, but you intuited that I was a Leo guy.
Yeah.
Based on my energy. Yep. And you were 100% right.
Okay.
And then your co-host here suggested that he can see on the inside there's some Raphael leaking out.
Yep.
These are both true statements.
Okay.
So the long and short of it is I'm a Leo guy, always been a Leo guy, through and through, from day one, always. Blue is my favorite color, sword's my favorite weapon, and I liked his stoicism. Simple answer. But like, true to life, I'm probably the most like Raphael.
Oh, yeah. Like I get that.
And that's why Leo's my favorite too.
Yeah.
Is that like
same here.
I see the Raphael in myself and I want to be more of a Leo. So anytime I feel myself going Raph, I go, no, go Leo.
That is exactly my answer. So that's fantastic. Yeah.
And people say Leonardo's boring and
they don't get him.
I will fight to the death about that, because I think people who say that just see surface level. Or maybe, and I could get, the thing is, if you talk to me about Leonardo, I could get really dramatic really quick. And I could talk about this for like an hour or two, easily.
I'll have to have you on the Leonardo episode when we just talk about like Leonardo. That'd be fantastic.
Oh, I'd be happy to, yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that.
But if I can make like a shorter version of my point, and this might sound so pretentious, so forgive me if it does, but I think Leonardo is kind of the character reserved for a certain kind of fan, whereas the other three turtles are a little more accessible. One's funny, one's kicking ass, and you can immediately latch onto that. But I think Leonardo is more for maybe people who had to grow up quicker, or maybe they grew up as a single child, or maybe they grew up as someone who had to take care of a lot of other brothers and sisters. I think you have to kind of fit a certain mold where you identify with more so his struggles than his appeals.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean.
Yeah, because like on the surface, it's like Leo's cool. He flings his swords around. He leads into battle. Like, that's great. But what I connect with more is, the moments where he goes to Splinter and talks about having to shoulder the burdens for other people's sake, and being strong despite how hard things are, trying to share your wisdom with other people who just can't quite grasp it. Things like leading the horse to water but not able to get him to drink. Like, all those things that he goes through as a person, this existentialism and trying to guide people and like being so desperate to help other people, and yet you can't even take your own advice.
Yeah.
I just identify with him so strongly. It's like it's filled a void for me that a therapist would, just to have that character to connect with.
I love that. I love that you went to all those places, because that resonates with me. Our other sometimes guest, sometimes co-host Liddy Waters had suggested that there's a certain type of trauma response that leads people to go towards Leo, and I'm like, 100%, that could also 100%. Work. And
it's honestly true for Raphael.
See, you get it. Or Michelangelo, or Donatello,
or even Donatello. Because they all are misfits in the sense that they're mutants that can't take part in society, but then their personalities are also unique that way. Yeah. Because a hothead will isolate himself from others. A geek will isolate himself from others. Someone who can't stop thinking about their responsibilities will isolate himself from others. And a person who can do nothing but joke to cope with life will often find himself at odds with those who need to take things seriously, and he just can't. So, it's definitely a property that attracts people who are the odd man out in their life or their friendship, their friend circles or family or whatever, I think. Because another thing I noticed, and this may not be unique to Turtles, but I don't participate in a whole lot of fandoms. Like, I poured all of my fixation into Turtles predominantly. So maybe this is just, a limited group of people. But I've noticed, for example, that there are a ton of LGBT fans and conservative Christian fans.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into anything political or
it's a big swap. To be honest,
but I think that both groups uniquely come from these very sort of it's a lifestyle where one has to be set apart from the rest, either because they're afraid of how they will be received or because their upbringing them conditions them to stay within a certain area. But in either case, they're at either ends of this cultural or ideological spectrum, but yet they uniquely relate in the fact that they will find it difficult to bond with other people, you know? And that's definitely been the overarching thing in Turtles, is that it's for people who need the Turtles to be their friends.
I think adding that people of color, because there's not a direct racial sort of coding for these characters. You know, like in some cases
so
there
accessible
have been.
To everyone.
It could be anyone. So I think you've hit on to something incredibly insightful there. Yeah.
Because people with disabilities as well fall into this. And I've seen so many disabled people that are into Turtles, uniquely compared to other properties.
As well, yeah.
And I myself have disabilities. I had a very difficult upbringing. I still have a lot of complications with my health, and that's part of why I am a freelance artist, is because my conditions limit my physical capabilities, and obviously mental health comes with any compromise brought on from that.
Yeah.
But it's just, if they're Turtles, they're mutants, they're teens, they're the children of an immigrant. You know, they're the child of someone who was ostracized from his world. There are so many levels there that you might connect with. Maybe it's only because your dad went through something crazy and you can identify because Splinter fills that. You know, because again, Splinter could fit so many different molds for certain people based on what version it is or what you see in him that you might connect with your own father or your own grandfather or maybe even yourself, you know. So
I mean, there's adoption you can throw in there. You know, like other things like that. So
the family is just about who's there.
Heavy material there.
Heavy material. That's why I like Mirage so much.
Yeah,
it gets into that.
To me, with you talking about all this stuff, I mean, it's really, really hitting that nail for me right now. And you got my wheels turning right now.
I'm glad to hear.
You don't even know why you like something sometimes, right? You know, and being able to articulate it in the way that, like Casey's saying, it's like, I never even realized that's why I like Leonardo, you know.
It's like, you know, like I've seen, you know, parts of a character in myself with, you know, like being Splinter, being the dad.
Sure.
You know, I've really never thought of me being a Leo type of person. But now that I think about it, you know, like with my job as being an assistant manager, you know, I have to be that Leo.
Yeah.
I have to be that leader. I have to be the one that, you know, leads by example and takes everybody's burdens and try to deal with those and try to handle those. And I've really, really never thought about that until now. You know, like, and like you bringing it up is like, you know, the whole Michelangelo, I love having fun at work, love doing that. And I've really never thought of that, you know, and everybody knows me as the turtle guy. Like I literally have we have this one thing that's up on our wall that, you know, that we have goals that are set, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you ever heard of Sheets.
I'm only peripherally familiar, but not that well. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm an assistant manager at this place. But so we have like these goals, right? So there's like literally a picture of like Sheets gas station and everything. And there's literally turtles that are hanging out at Sheets.
On the roof, right?
Mm. So like everybody at my work, they absolutely know me as the turtle guy. Like they know that I love turtles. I'm always sitting there, you know, I'm like dun, 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 at work, or it'd be like, you know, there'll be like an order that'll come up, it'd be like 122, and I'd be like 122, 122, and an 8.
And an 8?
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's
absolutely,
it's, you know, and you know, there was like 4 or 5 like flatbread pizzas that came in, and I was like, you know, Wiseman says never paid full price for like pizza, you know, and I'm just, you know,
you gotta get those out, get those orders out.
You know, I think of that stuff, you know, but like, you know, like I said, you really got my wheels turning, you know, thinking about like, I think there is a little bit of each turtle in us,
of course,
more than others. And, you know, I've kind of I kind of feel like, I feel like more of Splinter and more of a Leo guy, more than I am a Raphael. Don't get me wrong, Raphael still comes out.
Sure.
I feel like there's a stubbornnness in us where we're never going to admit that our favorite turtle changes from the original because I'm just not going to.
I would always,
never going to happen.
I would always be a Raphael guy. And my boy, he started out as Michelangelo, went to Leo. Now he's a Raphael guy. He's more heavy into Raphael than he is. I think it's because of me. I'm a heavy influence when it comes to Raphael, with my boy. And
let him play that original NES game and he will change his tune.
He has. He's played it. He's played every single turtle game.
I just mean that without the scroll weapon, Raph is pretty much useless. So
yeah, me and him, we go to this place called Game Cycle, and they got the Turtles Arcade 2. They got the Turtles in Time. He has played every turtle game that has ever came out. We got it on the PlayStation 5. We got all the ones.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The Cowabunga collection. Yep.
The Cowabunga collection, as well as, I have, the DS games. I have the GameCube, all those games, like the Konami one, all of them. Like I have a lot of games.
Sure.
But like I said, man, it's like having this conversation with you, a lot of these conversations, is really, really opened up my eyes a lot more, as seeing the Turtles community in a different way. You know what I'm saying? In a good way.
Yeah.
You're exactly what we hope to get the listener to open up their mind about things like this and have these conversations. And hopefully listening to us is like having a conversation with your friends and, getting different 100%. People on, like Casey is to, people who can articulate things differently.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. Is like all the different communities, and it doesn't matter what community that you're from. You can relate to the Turtles in some aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there's a different personality for each turtle. There is.
Yeah.
And we all blend. I don't go to Donnie so much. My wife, she's a Mikey. She loves Michelangelo.
Sure.
Okay, well, I wouldn't say love, but
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying? Like, my wife is not into the Turtles as much as
casual
I am.
Fans find it easier
but
to
she absolutely supports, what I do and, everything that is about Turtles with me and my son. And, she literally made...
Oh, this is where he's going to show you what she made. It's pretty cool. And listeners will know when Eric shows these. Check this out.
I remember seeing this.
This is a new one.
Long ago, I think, right?
This is a new one. This is an entire knitted Eric in a Ninja Turtle sweater with a red bandana on, which is outstanding. It's all.
You look a bit in it.
I know, but it fell off. I don't know where the goatee part is.
Yeah. So Eric used to have this really long goatee last year. Oh, that's so cool.
That is so great.
Wow, that is so creative.
Yeah.
Dude. Like,
it's so nice.
Justin, are you ready for this?
Oh, you're going to unlock. Oh, my God.
And truly a labor of love, clearly.
Yeah.
The amount of effort that goes into something like that and to have it come out so clean.
Oh, my God. It has my receding hairline. This is amazing. That is fantastic.
Yeah, she put Leo up here just for
Hell
you too. But,
oh, my God. It's got my rotund belly as well.
The blue sneakers.
Blue sneaks.
Yeah, for Leo, of course. So, you will be having this coming towards your way here soon, along with the epic Tales from the Sewer podcast blanket too. But
that's really cool, man.
Exceptional work.
Now I'm flummoxed. Not speechless because that rarely happens. So
I really, really hope that a lot of people do listen to this episode. And this is a lot longer than we usually do. I'm not gonna lie.
He's got good stuff to say, man.
I didn't even realize
there's not any good to say. There's a lot of great stuff that he has said.
Well, there you go. Well, with that, since we are going long, Eric, we usually end with one question. I'll let you ask that question.
So you're an avid listener to our podcast. Do you know what question that I usually ask about that me and Justin fight about?
Pineapple on pizza, if I'm not mistaken.
There we go, my man. Okay. So the question is, now this is a do or die. Okay, do you like pineapple on pizza? Yes or no?
Here's the thing. I forget who says which. I want to say Justin is the one in favor of pineapple. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Justin, I am on your side.
Okay. All right. This has been a good year for pineapple on pizza.
Yeah.
Look, you got the right guy. You know,
look. My son likes pineapple on pizza, so does my wife.
Yeah. Hey. Look, I know we're running long already, but you want to talk about pizza. I'm the guy. I'm from New York originally, okay? And no matter how long I may be anywhere else, I will always be New York. Fact. And that includes
I'm Connecticut, so I get it.
You qualify. Northeast
Connecticut
pizza
currently has the best pizza.
I don't qualify for anything because I'm originally from West Virginia.
You got pepperoni rolls, man. And those are
pepperoni rolls.
Not man.
You never had pepperoni rolls?
Of course I've had pepperoni rolls and all forms of pepperoni.
I have.
Okay, had you had pepperoni rolls with pepper jack?
They were really
sure, but I would. It's the kind of thing I would eat, certainly.
It's good. It's delicious.
But just to say, I'm a pizza snob, being from New York, and so like I can get into pizza for a really long time, and I won't bore you to death. But, I'm pretty traditional. I think pizza should be like, thin and crispy and, not too heavy on toppings, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also open-minded. And I think that, like, while there is, like, a right pizza and a wrong pizza in terms of what you serve as an establishment, there's no real wrong pizza just for what you like,
Well, our friend Camillo, who is originally from Italy, says that there's pizza and then there's flat food discs.
So, well, he would be better authority on that than me.
Yeah.
As far as like
the death for that one, though.
Yeah, no, that's different. But as far as like the Western idea of a traditional pizza, pineapple I think is good. I've eaten weirder than pineapple, certainly.
What's the weirdest pizza you've eaten?
The first one that comes to mind is they make those kits for doing it at home.
Yeah,
making your own pizza. I mean, it's not great, but. It's like 1998. We bring home one of those. I put American cheese, Skittles, and Sprite on it.
Oh, hell yeah. That's gross.
No sauce, nothing. And it was terrible.
Yeah, because you use Sprite. So
as far as like weird pizza toppings go, I put something on almost every pizza that I eat at home if I have it on hand, and that is corn.
Okay. You roast it? Is it out of a can? Like, what do you do?
I'll just take canned corn, sprinkle it on the pizza, cook the pizza.
See, I would be okay with that. When I lived in Japan, there was a lot of pizzas that had mayo in them.
Yeah, and corn on pizza is common out there as well.
Yep.
Which
I mean, corn. I'm
essentially oil and egg white, so it's like okay, I get it,
Sure.
But corn, it's like okay, do you like the texture? Like what's the deal with that? Because the flavor seems fine.
The thing with corn is I just love corn. And I'm really bizarre about it.
Are you talking about God? No, sorry.
I do love that corn.
I love that you did that. That's awesome that you did that, Eric. That may be my favorite thing you've done in a very long time.
I'm not going to lie. Every time that somebody mentions corn, that's the first thing. God, Lord. And that's the first thing I think of.
He's got the life over here. Damn.
Yeah. If I had a drink or two in me, I'd probably start doing that like.
Oh my gosh, that is so on point too.
What the fuck? I don't remember what I was
talking about. You're talking about
corn
on pizza.
Yeah, I just love corn. I will literally put corn on my sandwiches. I will mix it into my eggs when I beat them. I'll sprinkle it on a salad. I put it on a pizza. I will put corn on almost anything. I like the little crunch. I like the added water content. I like the sweetness.
Do you ever drink corn soda?
I have not had corn soda. No,
it's not bad. I'll be honest with you. Like of all the ones that I've tried that were kind of offbeat, corn is like I could see this being a thing.
What about hot dog flavored soda?
I have not had that, but ranch dressing flavor was the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth, and I mean that over like even hydrogen peroxide, like the worst thing I've ever tasted.
I don't go for the gimmick sodas so much.
Yeah. What about baking soda?
I was going through a phase. I mean.
Baking soda or bacon soda?
Oh, I have that upstairs. actually.
Bacon.
Okay.
Bacon, like,
I have that.
Okay.
bacon, like,
I have that.
Okay.
like actual
Okay.
bacon, like,
Yeah,
like
I would-
part of my
I wouldn't
food
touch
group bacon.
You do like the bacon.
I like bacon. I wouldn't drink it, but that goes
Yeah.
for a lot of things.
It's
A lot of things I like, I wouldn't drink.
Yeah, there's a place down here where I live at, and it's probably like 10-minute drive, and it's called Grandpa Joe's, and they have hot dog flavored soda and ketchup soda.
Is this a hot dog flavored soda? Is this produced by Fred
Limp
Durst?
Biscuit
Yeah, I kept waiting for the for the Limp Bizkit reference. We already
with
hit
chocolate
corn.
starfish.
Yeah.
And
Who
hot
is
dog
currently on
flavored
tour
water.
with Corey Feldman, who is the original voice of the 1990
It all comes
Donatello.
together.
Trying to get
And
back to all this.
Dude,
Oh,
have
you
you
wanna-
seen Fred Durst? What he looks like right now? Oh
Hold
my
on.
gosh!
Let's get away from all that.
Hold on. You said 1990 film, and I can't help but pan my camera awkwardly to this shredder prop right here.
Oh wow!
Gosh.
What is that?
Hold on. Let me. I have it in this little case here, but this is.
Oh.
Sorry. Try to get an angle. This is a blade from 1990 Shredder's.
What?
From the James
singular
Saito
break.
costume?
That is correct.
Wow.
This is from the leg armor. I think it might have been the right leg.
Where in the heck did you get that piece?
So, did you guys have Jeff Court on the show ever?
We didn't, but hold on to this story for another time because I've only got 4 minutes here. So
Fair
what we're
enough.
going to do this has been amazing. We've had great stuff. We want to get people to go and check out. We'll have a link in the show notes for your music at Powder GHG on Instagram. Check out our guest Casey. Everyone who's listening, you can stay tuned, and we will have a corn themed pizza recipe. But otherwise, I want to thank our guest, Casey Jones, the artist Casey Jones,
Thank you.
for coming on to the show. Eric, any final thoughts?
No, it's all I got to say. If you're going to have a corn themed pizza, you better make sure you have some corn music in the background.
Okay, all right, we will do that. All right, and with that, I will be right back with our pizza recipe of the day.
Thank you, boys.
It's pizza time.
And now, in a segment that we call Pizza Time, where we discuss any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle or pizza-related food, I give you Pizza Time. All right, I was looking for a recipe for Casey with our pizza, something that I could find some corn, and I came up with sweet corn and basil pizza. Ingredients: 1 pound pizza dough, 1 large ball of fresh mozzarella, 1 cup of shredded Monterey Jack cheese, 1 cup corn sliced from the cob, 1/2 cup cherry tomatoes, halved, kosher salt and freshly cracked black pepper, red pepper flakes, fresh basil leaves for garnish, and 1 cup of basil vinaigrette. Instructions: preheat your oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit 30 minutes before cooking the pizza, and put your pizza stone in the oven. Divide the dough into 2 even pieces. Stretch each piece of dough in a circular motion, then lay them both on a flat surface and flatten them out using a rolling pin. If you have a pizza peel, sprinkle some flour and place on the stretched out dough on the peel. Once your 2 pizza doughs are flat and ready to be cooked, use a spoon and spread the basil vinaigrette around the dough, leaving a little bit on the crust. Lay the top halved cherry tomatoes on top of the basil. Tear the mozzarella into pieces and top each pizza with equal amounts of mozzarella, shredded cheese, and corn. Transfer the pizzas into the oven and bake for 12 to 13 minutes until the crust is golden. Step 5. Remove the pizza from the oven. Season with salt and pepper and additional red pepper flakes if needed. Top with fresh basil, slice and serve. And that's your pizza recipe with corn, the sweet corn and basil pizza.
Cowabunga, dudes! Thank you for listening to the Epic Tales from the Sewers podcast. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. This podcast has no affiliation with Eastman, Laird, Mirage Studios, IDW Studios, Archie Comics, or Nickelodeon Studios. This podcast is a member of the Dorkening Podcast Network. Check out thedorkening.com for other podcasts. Epic Tales from the Sewers is recorded by Justin Cooper and Eric Will.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. We have very active lifestyles. It's not all wandering the countryside aimlessly or scaring passing motorists. And we all love a good cup of joe. And there's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. Bold, robust, delicious. It's coffee that can wake the dead. With over a dozen different roasts and flavors, Deadly Grounds can satisfy the most finicky of coffee addicts. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Greetings and shabebans. We are the Retro Reductopus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite seems trying to say is that on Retro Reductopus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Door King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Reductopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
It took me 10 years to make the perfect man cave.
And then we took it over, and we made it into the multiversal chamber.
Then I started my own podcast.
And we took that over too. And we're the co-hosts, the Multiverse Kids.
Yeah, and I'm the dad, the geeky dad. And every week, we what?
We review the movies, shows, and books, games, and toys.
Yeah, and sometimes we even have a special guest. So, join us every week on the Geeky Dad Podcast.
Hello, intrepid listeners. This is the Generation Playlist Podcast, a podcast about music where we are your guides through a particular group or artist.
We talk about the music, and then we make a customized playlist to share with you, our listeners. And you can check us out wherever you listen to podcasts and find our playlists on Spotify.